Welcome to episode 41 of the Write and Inspire Rawcast. Many of us don't underperform because we're unfit, but because we're underfed, under-recovered, and overstressed. In this episode, I have a special guest. I'm talking to Jen Cates. Jen Cates is a fitness and nutrition coach, and I love her work because she has a very scientific approach to everything, similar to me. And she's also gone through a super amazing, let's call it, evolution in her own life. I'm going to link her website below, and I'm going to be talking to her about what changes when we turn 40, because when I recorded this episode, I wasn't 40 yet, but I turned 40 last week. And for me, it's been a biggie, to be honest. And I've been researching a lot, and I want to help you guys if you are also turning 40, or if you are beyond 40 already, what you need to do to fuel better, to train better, and to just overall become a better mountain biker aged 40 plus. Welcome, Jen. With me in the studio is Jen from Shift Human Performance, and I think she's just as excited as I am.
I am. It's so hard to contain myself right now. I'm like smiling ear to ear. So
That's great. So we're just going to jump right into this. And I am so excited to have you here. Can you believe that I am turning 40 this year? So I want to talk to you about exactly that. It's like a big shift, I think. And since you're a nutrition expert and also a fitness expert, I really want to talk about what do we need to do when we turn 40? What's changing?
oh, that is such a loaded question, Roxy. Well, first of all, happy early birthday. Um, and for the listeners, just to let everyone know who's listening, I'll be 46 this year, which is kind of hard to believe. I'm like just creeping and crawling a little bit closer to 50. And I will say, yes, there are some changes that you can kind of experience, especially with just energy and hormonal shifts and things like that. And to put it all in a nutshell, what you can expect as a person who's, turning 40 is some changes. And that's fine. It's kind of the evolution, right? It's your life. And I think we kind of have to learn how to like embrace the changes and then also just figure out how to manage them as best as possible. For me, of course, my symptoms are going to be different maybe than your symptoms, Roxy, and maybe yours will be a little bit later or earlier. It like all depends. It all depends on when you started your menstruation and all of that. So I think if we kind of come to that time of our life with an open mind and just being receptive to like the signals that your body's giving you and the biofeedback, that it's giving you, and not being frustrated with it, which I know it can be easy to go down that path of being frustrated, but instead trying to think, okay, this is my body's hormones changing and adjusting. Like, what can I do to maximize my current state as best as possible? So I think first and foremost, being open-minded and being patient and trying not to get frustrated, because I know, trust me, I know it feels like someone is taking over your body and you're like, what the hell? you know, and it causes a litany of feelings and emotions to pop up. But, at the same time, it's almost like a little bit of a beautiful thing. And I think if you really just try to embrace your mindset around that, it's really important. But all in all, muscle reduction, yeah, you can start to expect that starting even in your 30s if you're not doing any strength training and focusing on protein, maybe some sleep disturbances, possibly. Your mood might fluctuate, you know. I mean,
Like
there's a
even
whole
more?
litany of things. Yeah, exactly. Even more. But again, it all depends. Like some people are like, hey, I didn't notice a change in my mood. Although some folks do claim that they do feel a little bit more frustrated. like they start to feel a little more annoyed and easily triggered, I guess is the word, with certain situations. But again, everyone's different, right? And, hormonally, we can't really, uh, I'm going to maybe ruffle some feathers when I say this, but hormonally, like, sure, we can do hormone tests, but there actually is not really a steady lab value for women's hormones because they do fluctuate so intensely versus like our male counterparts with their testosterone levels and things like that. So, you know, um, Yeah, to answer the question, it's, there is going to be a litany of changes potentially. We just kind of have to learn how to ride the waves and adjust as needed. But yeah, muscle for sure, focusing on like muscle and sleep hygiene, and then, the mood. There's other things that we can talk about, when it comes to mood, because that could be from even under eating. I see that a lot because women are just experiencing changes. So their immediate response is, I need to eat less. And then they end up eating way too less. So again, I mean, it's just a season of frustration, but I think we just kind of have to learn how to like ride with it a little bit and adjust as needed based on our own
Definitely.
symptoms and signs.
To back this up with a little science, I would like to talk about what changes for women and men at 40. So for women, the biggest shift is hormonal, particularly around estrogen and progesterone, which start to fluctuate and decline as women enter perimenopause, which can start in the late 30s and in the early 40s. These hormonal changes are the following. Estrogen supports muscle mass and it supports bone density, joint lubrication, and brain function, and insulin sensitivity, and it drops. Progesterone helps regulate sleep, mood, and recovery, and it also drops. As these decline, women will experience less anabolic, so muscle building drive. We will experience more insulin resistance and have slow recovery, and we may have more mood swings and sleep disruption. However, we just need to adjust. These are facts, we can't change them. They may sound kind of dark, but we can adjust to them and we can live a happy life. Don't worry, that's what this is about today. So now what's different with men? Men will also have hormonal changes. Their testosterone levels will drop, and what's important for that is that this will show up as reduced muscle mass, lower energy and motivation, mood changes, irritability, decreased libido, slow recovery, especially from high-intensity exercise. Also, both men and women have a loss of muscle mass and power. Women a little more than men, so strength training really becomes a non-negotiable as you hit age 40. Bone density and joint health change for both men and women. So we really need to work on strength, as I said, and men should also ideally work on mobility and relaxation techniques, which will also help them sleep better. The next thing is nutrition. What would be symptoms of undereating?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Definitely moodiness. So to bring that back into the fray here, moodiness, like like reduced performance. Um, if you are still menstruating, just having a different menstruation cycle or no menstruation cycle. Difficulty recovering, excessive soreness. Oh gosh, there's so many things. If you are having difficulty with like blood sugar management, things like that, like if you do tend to be hypoglycemic or, even diabetic to some degree, with diabetes, you probably have things under control with medication, but with hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, that can obviously cause even bigger swings, if you are under fueling and not fueling effectively. But the biggest thing is just, you just start to feel agitated. Sleep is very difficult. You're waking up in the middle of the night frequently. But again, these are also signs and symptoms of other things. So that's the wonderful puzzle that you are then left to try to decipher yourself, or with your medical professional. So yeah.
Definitely.
But undereating is it's a hot thing I see. But ultimately, if you're not seeing progress and you're working and you're maybe sleeping well and you're doing everything, but you're not seeing progress, then I think it's really important to see like, okay, am I eating adequately? And am I also eating enough of the proper like proportions for what my body might need?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a big one because especially not only in the US, also in Europe, like obesity is increasing. So many people are just talking about overeating. But I think it's the overeating can be undereating at the same time because the people are eating too much of the wrong stuff and too little of the right stuff. So you're undernourished while being obese. And that's something that I really think is so important, that it always comes back to the fundamentals, not only in mountain biking, but also when we look at our health. I think the foundational things are always forgotten. People talk about all the little hacks and they're looking for that super little tiny missing puzzle piece, but actually the foundational things like eating healthy, sleeping well, and having enough rest, and that not only sleep hygiene, but also mental hygiene, those are the things that are often forgotten. But those are the things that make the hugest shifts. Food, what would you say are like the most foundational things that maybe even a lot of people don't know?
Oh, foundation. I'm sure everyone's like, okay, Jen, I know you're going to say protein. And yes, I'm going to say protein. Generally speaking, all of the new clients that I have coming to me for my health and nutrition coaching, when we have them do a food log, just for even a couple of days. And yeah, the amount of protein that they're under eating. But the next in line, 100% is fiber. If we could just shift our thinking into thinking about like more whole foods groups, and this is not to demonize processed foods or things like that, because really every food is a processed food. Like you have to pick the apple from the tree, right? That's a process technically. And then it's like, okay, you can have processes that go even further to make it applesauce, right? So there's processed food is kind of like on a spectrum. But if we could focus on more whole foods as close to the source as possible, that's really going to be a benefit. And then leave your, 10 to 20% of your diet to being a little bit more processed foods, especially if maybe you are an endurance athlete and you have to lean on a little bit simpler foods, especially while you're on the bike, just because that's what's easier to tolerate, right? But if we could just focus on protein and fiber, and when I say fiber, I mean things that are going to have like whole grains. Now, of course, I understand some folks are gluten-free, and I completely respect that, especially if they're celiac. But fruits, vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, making sure that these vegetables, if you don't tolerate them raw, then great. Try to find a way that you can cook them that you can actually tolerate them and, absorb the nutrients. But focusing on the fibrous foods is so necessary because that's the other thing. So next to protein being undereaten, it's fiber being undereaten. And we're talking individuals getting maybe 5 to 10 grams of fiber in a day when the recommendation is for every 1,000 calories that you consume in a day, trying to have about 10 grams of fiber, roughly 10 to 15 grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories. So that's why the average or the suggested allowance is about 25 grams at a good minimum, up to about 35 grams for fiber in a day. But protein and fiber, I would say, is like foundation. And then trying to add a little bit of the fun foods like we talked about, 10 to 20% of your diet, maybe having, tiramisu is your thing. Great. Split it with a friend, like once a week or something like that, because you need to have that balance. So you're not completely swinging that pendulum in your diet left to right. And finding that it's what we call yo-yo dieting, when you're like, I'm going to be really strict this week. I'm going to follow everything. I'm going to follow Jen's suggestions to do protein and fiber. And then you're going to go off the rails, right? And the weekend comes and the weekend, is not such a wonderful, beautiful place, especially if you're riding your bike more, because then cravings will escalate. But fruits, veggies, if you focus on the whole foods, and then add in fats for flavors, that's kind of my rule of thumb. And fats can be like dressings, oils, vinegar, like those beautiful things like olives and nuts and seeds if you tolerate them, because again, they bring flavor. So that's going to be foundational, and does that kind of help clear the picture a little bit, Roxy?
Definitely. I
Yeah.
think it's
Okay.
always
Good.
hard also here to not go into too wild of extremes. Just as you said, we'll get too strict sometimes and then too loose on the other times, instead of just finding something that works for us in the long run. And I think
100%.
that's exactly the problem, that people will look for extremes. And I mean, I used to be anorexic, so I had a big problem with eating. I'm totally
Mhm.
over it, which I am super, super grateful for. But of course, I still know a lot from back then. So that's the big upside about having been anorexic, that I know how good eating can be and how it can really spiral down negatively. And what I found nowadays is, just as you said, for one thing, if I'm having cravings, that for me is a big sign that something's off. So that's what I
Mhm.
found out nowadays, that I say, okay, I can have whatever I want to eat. I can eat anything as long as I'm eating it in moderation. So yes, I will go have a burger at a fast food place, but probably like once a month, maybe even once in 2 months, and it's okay. And then I will eat it and I will enjoy it and I will not feel bad about it. But if I
Mhm.
have that craving every 3 days, then I know something is off. And the same with chocolate. If I have a few pieces of chocolate now and then, it's okay. But if I crave that every day at the same time, for example, I know that I need something else. And I think that's something that you said right at the beginning that is so important, that we need to be receptive without judging ourselves and saying, okay, I want this ice cream. Why do I want it? What have I been
Mhm.
doing? Maybe I haven't been taking enough rest. Maybe I've been training too hard and eating too little. Or do I just want this ice cream because once in a while I need something sweet and it's okay? And then
Mhm.
being receptive with yourself and analyzing that and then being okay with it. And I think that's like the biggest step to not only self acceptance, but also eating healthy, sleeping healthy, thinking healthy, doing everything healthy, as we said in the beginning, the foundations. And if you have like the foundations, as we said, enough fiber, enough protein, and have some of the fast foods sometimes, then it's absolutely okay. And you'll find I'd say, a balance for yourself where you then
Mhm.
can, of course, optimize without going super freaky about it.
100%. Yeah, because if you restrict too much, then I mean the cravings will just be excessive, because it's kind of like, eh, I mean, that's going to be a mindset 101 almost, right? If you restrict anything at any point, you're going to want it more. And of course, I wanted to add, not demonizing any food groups, especially carbs, especially for us, mountain bikers and cyclists. We need carbohydrates for an energy source, and if you are a fat adapted athlete, sure, you're going to need a little bit more fat as well, but try not to demonize those and eat some carbohydrate rich foods around your training and around your rides. Really important.
So let's just summarize everything we've heard. For riders over 40, both men and women need more protein. Why does this matter? Because it offsets the anabolic resistance. What to do? Concentrate on about 30 grams protein per meal, especially after riding or after training. What about carbs? We do need carbs, especially women need to take in carbs pre or post ride, and we need to take in good carbs. So low on sugars, but a lot of fruit and high quality carbs like full grain. Also, we need fat, yes, but good fats. They support our hormones. So include omega 3s, olive oil, nuts. Don't be scared of fats, just again, prioritize the good fats. Strength training, well, we need it. It's non negotiable, especially for women, but also for men. 2 to 3 times per week, full body, to maintain muscle, bone density, and an overall balance. And for us mountain bikers, it will really help to prevent crashes and to ride better, as well as mobility work, especially for men, because they tend to be less mobile than women. So let's jump to the next topic, which is also a big one, and
Okay.
that's recovery.
Oh,
What do you think are like
recovery.
the biggest myths when it comes to recovery?
Oh, that you have to do a sauna and a cold plunge right after every effort. And you have to, like, to your point, what you said a moment ago, which really just spoke to my heart, you have to hack through everything. You have to find the latest hacks, these biohacks, right? And I can't emphasize enough the importance of sleep. Sleep, friends, sleep. It's so incredibly important. And we neglected, unfortunately, and of course, this is coming from someone who is historically not the best sleeper. Little fun fact for me, I actually have a brain cyst in the middle of my brain. It's in an inoperable part of my brain, and it can sometimes cause a little bit of a fluctuations in hormones that help you sleep. So it can impact your circadian rhythm. So when it comes to sleep, I am all in on everything, and my friends also joke because they know that I'm not the person that will stay up late except for maybe once a month. If it's like a really special occasion, I'll stay up late, like a wedding or something like that, right? Uh, but it's because I have got to get to sleep, and I'm a night owl. Like, don't get me wrong, I love staying up late. That's when I have really good energy. But I'm also a morning person, which, I think it is partly maybe because of the brain system. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I have to respect that. But getting to bed early and not staring at your phone, not scrolling right before bed, really giving yourself that break, giving your brain that break before bed. It's just so incredibly important, and it's just underappreciated. And I think if
Mhm.
folks were to really set some parameters around their phone usage and technology usage, things that emit blue light especially, that will just help their brain calm down, because in today's society, we are always on. We're always on. We are demanding so much of ourselves because of the technology age, correct? And I think if we were to just give ourselves a little bit more of a break, it would be so beneficial for our sleep and recovery. So yeah, go head first into sleep, friends, because I can't emphasize that enough as a recovery tool. Now, of course, there's other things that do work. Some parasympathetic breath work. I'm a mindfulness consultant and been a long time meditator since I was about 15, and I'm 45. So, oh my gosh, do the math. And I can't emphasize how much breath work has really played a role in my life personally. Now, of course, I know not everyone's, up to it. I get it. But that is a really great recovery tool for you to kind of go from this, fight or flight type of mindset, which I know you like to talk about, and then going into that parasympathetic, more relaxed and just easygoing type of mindset where you can manage your stress a little bit better. So yeah, recovery,
Definitely.
stress management, and sleep,
Yeah.
hands down.
I agree so much to this. And we're back to the foundational elements of
Yeah.
everything. And I read two books, which I'm going to be linking below. One's about sleep and one's about breath. And both are highly scientific, but still very relatable. And they were the game changers for me, because I've been doing breath work for years as well, but now reading that book, I noticed why it helps so much, and that also again just emphasized how important it is and how easy it is. Because as we said earlier, we're always looking for those hacks, but actually many things are so simple that they feel so unimportant, but they are such game changers, and breath is really one of them. And most of us are
Yes.
over breathing and we don't even know. And this sets us more into that alarm state. And as you said, that in our modern times, our body is basically, we're not built for what we are doing today. Like, our body is
Mhm.
built for short times of stress and long times of rest. And nowadays we're
Mhm.
doing short rest and long stress. And we are noticing this. That's why there are so many mental health issues, so many problems with diabetes, obesity, everything, because our brain and body hasn't really evolved, especially our brains, since over 80,000 years. But think what has happened in that time. And just as you said, that blue light right before sleep, it's really screwing with our circadian rhythm, and society, with everyone having to get up early, is really not working in favor of those who are more than night owls. And all this is really hard if we don't start to understand how we can cater to ourselves, and then just looking for that next hack, looking for the next sugar rush, instead of just saying, okay, how can I sleep better? How can I breathe better? How can I move more? How can I eat better?
Mhm.
How can I,
Exactly.
listen more to myself and be more receptive with myself? And that's the
Mhm.
beauty of what you do also. That's why I like your podcast. I like everything you do, because you're not about, hey, here's the next hack, try this. But no,
Yeah.
people, it's about fundamentals over fads, and really listening to yourself, tuning in, and as you said in the beginning, being receptive rather than just searching.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's no point in fighting your body. I mean, it's giving you the signals on purpose, right? And I think we just need to be like forgiving, not beat ourselves up if we maybe have done things that are not in alignment with those foundational things, and then just learn from it and move on, and see what adjustments you can make. So incredibly important. Yeah, thanks for saying that, Roxy, and thanks for listening. I appreciate that.
So I'm a mountain bike instructor, and most of my listeners are probably mountain bikers. So how can we bring this back to mountain biking? Life lessons from you for mountain bikers. Go.
Oh, life lessons. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, sleep. Like focus on sleep, and it's especially important if you are doing, evening bike rides. I know for me, if I do evening bike rides and, especially during early spring when we're doing like full moon bike rides, we're biking later, and it is really difficult for me to come down after a bike ride right before bed. So doing some breath work, making sure I'm not scrolling social media before bed, making sure I can kind of come down as best as I can, doing a little bit of journaling. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, just like breath work, but it's useful. Or at least trying to do a brain dump is what we call it. We're taking all of our worries for the day, putting it on paper right before bed. Really does wonders. But yeah, just trying to get to sleep as best as possible. So that way you can ride the next day, right? And then fueling enough, making sure you're fueling adequately. If you need some assistance, obviously with this, I'm here to help. But, I think the easiest thing is just trying to listen to the feedback, which I know might be skewed for some folks because we're told, hey, listen to your body, listen to your body. Some folks just don't know how to listen to their body, right? And that's probably a podcast topic for another day for you. But, learning how to pick up on those cues and learning that, hey, hunger is not necessarily emergency, but it is a sign that you need something, and starting with proteins and fiber, starting with like some fruits and vegetables and protein, and then obviously starchier vegetables like potatoes and fruits and things that have a little bit of a higher carb count, rice, before and after your training to really make sure that your bike rides are adequately fueled and adequately recovered afterwards too. And then honestly, the next thing is strength training. I can't emphasize that enough, even as a cyclist. And trust me, I know I would love to be outside 100% of the time and riding my bike, but I also know that doing that repetitive motion on the bike, it it can lead to things that are maybe not ideal. So really trying to counterbalance that with appropriate strength training, 2 to 3 days a week, maybe more if you have time and the weather's poor or whatever, or you enjoy going to the gym. But trying to get at least twice a week is really fantastic. 30 to 60 minutes is usually all you need. Trying to hit the major, body movement. I'm real big on like squat movement of some sort, a hip hinge movement of some sort, which is like a deadlift. And then doing some single leg work, single arm work, and thinking about more like vertical pulling, vertical pushing, horizontal pulling. So like push ups, rows, pull ups, pull downs, whatever you need, but just trying to balance it. And then doing core, doing rotational stuff, looking at your videos, your demo videos, you see how much rotation you have, right? When you're doing switchbacks and you're doing cornering, rotation is incredibly important. I think it's really underappreciated when it comes to just supplementing our riding. But it can make us stronger on the bike, but also off the bike, because ultimately you want to be able to have that longevity piece and live a long and mobile life. So really trying to balance that with some strength training too, as much as we love biking. But I think that all in all is really great. And then doing some skill work too. And I'm not saying this because I'm talking to you as a mountain bike coach, but I think it's incredibly important if you are really going to want to feel like empowered in the sport and feel like you can do it a long time, having the skills necessary to really safely do it, especially as you get older, is incredibly important too. Plus, it just feels right. It feels good to know, what to do and how to do it, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. But that's
So
kind of all in a nutshell.
And what about the folks who don't have a gym? Is it okay to strength train at home as well?
Oh gosh, yeah. I'd say like a good 25% of my clients actually work out at home at a minimum, if not 50. I'd actually have to think about it. Not everyone has a gym membership. So then it's just a matter of, I give them suggestions on how to outfit their gym. I do that with a few people, and that's actually been a lot of fun. But then a lot of folks come to me with, some essentials that they already have in their home gym, and they have a really great setup. But it's pretty much like a lighter set of dumbbells, a heavier set of dumbbells to you. This is all subjective, right? Set of bands, the big loop bands, a set of small mini bands, and then maybe a yoga mat. If you do have a hardwood floors or something like that, that just allows you to lay on the floor a little bit more comfortably. And you can do a lot even with those handful of pieces of equipment. To add on to it, yeah, like having a bench or plyometric box is really beneficial if you want to work a little bit more power, which I really suggest for mountain bikers. Um, but I mean, I can't even put into words how much you can do. And I think we collectively learned that you can do a lot at home in 2020 when we were all kind of forced, to figure it out, and kind of navigate some shutdowns and things like that. And people were realizing like, oh, wow, okay, it's actually quite easy, even just to sneak in 10-minute segments here and there. Those are what I call movement snacks. And you can easily do that at home or in the office if you want to just, get out of the chair, get out of the office chair or what have you, and kind of step away from that and do some body weight squats. It really does wonders. And I
Yeah.
do want to add one thing that I did forget about a moment ago, and that's walking and just moving more in general. Because I think we focus a lot on gym time and bike time, right? And those things bring us joy or can bring us joy. And I think we sometimes neglect the fact that we sit a little bit more than, or a lot more than we maybe should. Um, and besides protein, fiber, I would add like, in sleep and recovery, I would add movement and just like regular movement and trying to get some movement in and not being so stationary. And maybe that means you bargain with yourself and you're going to say, hey, I'll scroll social media or I'll listen to a podcast while I'm on a walk, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe that involves some bargaining just because we are in that technology age right now and we need to kind of make it work for us and not against us. So
Definitely. Yeah. No, I agree so much to that. I walk almost every day, actually, sometimes even twice a day, because for me, it is such a game changer to be out walking. I will, like, even if I have a headache, I go out and 20 minutes into walking, the headache is gone.
yeah.
So, and often when I'm working all day, I will forget how much I've actually done because I've been just so focused all day. And then I'll get all tense. And then I'm like, I say, okay, I have to go walking. And 15 minutes into walking, I'm a changed person. I will be super
Mhm.
grumpy before I go out to walk and come back as like a happy little child. It does so much for us. And I think, as you said, it's so underrated. Again, it's the easy things that have the big effects. And we keep looking for those pills, but actually it's 20 minutes walking will do a lot. And I saw some brain scans. I don't know, I can't remember the study, but it was a study showing exactly that, like what happens to your brain if you just go out walking for 20 minutes. It's a huge difference. And it really releases the toxins that build up when we're all day, when we're making hundreds of decisions. We have so many toxins in our brain, and then we just go out and walk and they're gone. Like it flushes our brain. And that's the beauty of today as well, that we have so much information. We
Yeah.
just need to use it.
100%. And it's the unsexy things, right? Just to your point, it's the simple things, but they're not sexy. They're not instant, and I think all too often we're just, we're kind of living this Amazon Prime is what I call it. Like we expect our dream body and our dream life and our dream abilities on and off the bike to just arrive 3 days after we order them, or 3 days after we start something new. And unfortunately, friends, that is not the case.
I
So
know.
just, trying to be patient and trying to be persistent and as consistent as you can too is really, it's so incredibly important. And just keeping it as simple, because honestly, when you think about it, the simpler you can keep it and the easier you can keep it, the more you're actually going to do it, right? And I think a lot of times, like using walking as an example, folks think, oh, they need to do 10,000 steps or none at all. And that's not the case at all. Like, hey, if you're at about a 3,000 step average right now, great, try to bump it up to about 5. Because I think a research study that I saw recently, it was like 5,500 steps was a good minimum for like like a healthier response for mental health. And that's not too bad, right? And then great, if you're getting 5,000 steps, great. Try to get it to maybe a 6 or 7,000. And I know personally, I notice a big difference between the days that I get 2 or 3, which are few and far between. Like those are usually the days that I'm like not feeling well, versus the days that I'm getting like closer to 10,000 steps. So don't think that even if you're not getting that magical 10,000 steps in a day, that it's nothing. Anything is like something is better than nothing,
Yeah.
when it comes to that.
Definitely. And I loved what you said before also about the movement snacks, that it's the small things that do have the big effect. And that's always what I tell my clients. If you can only get in 5 minutes of skills training, that's amazing. Because think about it, if you do 5 minutes twice a week, you are going to improve so much in 2 months. And they were like, yeah, but 5 minutes not worth it. Yeah, it is. Definitely. It's always better than not doing it. And starting small and then building on that is so powerful. I mean, think about it. How many minutes do we brush our teeth a day? Usually maybe 4 to 6. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but don't do that for 2 days and look what happens, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like
I don't want to test that theory.
And then we start seeing, okay, it's only like 4 minutes, but we're saying, okay, 4 minutes working out is nothing. Well, why? And rethinking that, and then starting to really take those snacks, and from there you'll build it up. And that's what I do actually every morning, because I have this morning routine of going out and doing yoga, but only 10 to 15 minutes. But there are many mornings where I don't feel like it, but I have it's like a deal with myself. I have the deal, I will go out and do one pose, no matter how bad I feel, one pose, because there are no excuses that will allow me not to do one pose. And then 99% of the time, I will do my full routine, because once you get started, you'll just stick with it anyhow. But going out is the hard part. And that's why I set that deal with myself, saying one pose, no matter what. And then if I don't feel good, okay, I stop after one pose, and that's okay. But 99% of the time, I really won't stop. And I think those are the things that we start to bring into the world, that no matter what you want to reach, it is persistence, and you need to train yourself to be persistent. You just need to find what works for you, and then we can reach anything, whatever we want in life.
It all stacks up. It really does. It all adds up. And before you know it, you're making so many shifts in how you feel and maybe look. I mean, I don't think that's important to everyone, but mostly how you feel. And that's where it's just really encouraging to, help you keep going. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And just as you said, strength training on the bike is so important, especially for us women, because, we don't have as much strength as men, and they can muscle through many sections, and we just can't. And the stronger we are, the less fear we will feel, the better we will be able to move on the bike. It's not just strength, it's also mobility, as you said, rotations, and a lot of coordination. And that doesn't build overnight. You need to do that regularly. And especially, I have many clients that who start mountain biking aged over 70. My oldest client is 84, and he started when he was 80. And with persistence, they reach amazing levels. But of course, for them, it's even more important to do strength training, to do mobility work, and to stay persistent with tiny steps. Because also, as you said, of course, recovery will be slow, so they can't do 2 hours. They need to do 20 minutes and then maybe have 2 days of rest, and that's okay. And being receptive and sticking to it is really the big game changer. That's the hack, people. The hack is, there is no hack. The hack is you need to go the long road, because it's the short road.
Exactly. And it's funny you say this, because I was wanting to make a post about this very thing, because I keep getting questions, podcast suggestions from folks, and it's all about like the latest and greatest hacks. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I need to just make a post. Like, we need to keep it simple. And to add to the strength training element too, it also makes your body so much more resilient should you take a tumble, because you're learning and you're progressing with new things, right? And with that, comes some learning, comes little bumps and bruises, right? And the more resilient your body is, the better you're going to be at just injury, resilience and prevention. And if you do get injured, your ability to come back from it that much quicker is obviously increased too. So very beneficial.
Definitely agree. So I would say I think we've had so much today that we can come to an end to this podcast and maybe have another one in maybe next year because I really enjoyed this
I'd
one.
love that. I would absolutely love that, Roxy. I always love talking with you.
Definitely. So thank you, Jen, for being here. I'm going to link in the show notes where people can find you to work with you because you also work remotely as far as I know, right?
I do.
Awesome. I will link all that below. And I'm already looking forward to our next talk, whenever that is. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, same, Roxy. Thank you. And keep up the work with everything you're doing and just shedding some light on making folks as skillful as possible on and off the bike. I love it.
You too. Together we can make a difference. And we
Yes,
are.
that's our goal. We're making shift happen.
We are. So thank you everyone for staying until the end. Do make sure to check out the show notes and goodbye.